Excuse me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to something. This is Mehcast Reacts Billy and the Clown, which is a story by Sam Hyde, I believe you were telling me.
Yeah, so this was
By the
something
way,
about.
before we get any further, hi, I'm Alex. This is Tony. We're the only ones here today because Kevin is out of town and Ben is looking for his Steam Deck and also tired after work. So that's it's just gonna be us, and we're doing something funny. We're not really sure what this is. Go ahead and explain what
Little.
this is again,
Okay,
Tony.
yeah, so for those who don't know, Sam Hyde, internet guy, he's done a lot of things over the years.
Didn't he used to
Here's
have a
especially with,
television show?
yeah, $1 Million Extreme on Adult Swim.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
canceled after the first season, but more recently, he managed to actually get a season two independently produced on his own.
That's cool.
Some of that. Some of that stuff you can at least go check out on his YouTube channel. He also has gotten into cultural commentary type stuff and life advice, podcasting. He's also done stand up comedy, and as you'll see here, he's also a writer.
Yeah.
So this was at least with where the earliest VODs of this at least predate. This goes back to about as early as about 2014 with where some of the earliest streams of him reading this out was. So you'll at least get to see a little time capsule of the past to a better time on the internet. So the whole story is basically, at the very least, it's meant to be like a Shaggy Dog type joke or something like The Aristocrats,
Yeah, one of those
where the
long
whole
tortured similes.
yeah, where the whole experience, whole joke isn't really what the punchline is at the end, but more so subjecting the person through the whole experience.
And Tony
And
decided that the best way to convey this was to make me read it.
well, we can both read it anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Because and it's
By the
like
way,
it turns.
I have made a copy of this for my purposes for the stream here. That way I can make the text larger so that I can read it a little easier. And it
Yeah.
looks a little bit better on the stream when the text is larger, so just bump that up to size 14, and now we can go. Size 14 is incidentally the same shoe size I wear if I'm wearing a size too big.
All right.
Billy was a good... Chapter 1, Billy's Big Dream. Billy was a good boy like many others. He never bullied anyone at school. He always did well in classes. He was just an all-around good kid. He was popular, having lots of friends, and of course young girls always teased him as they wanted to kiss him and tickle him and be tickled by him. Oh dear.
This is a serious story, Stark.
Sorry. Sorry, somebody's messaging me. He loved the circus more than anything, and every conversation with Billy seemed to revert to something about the circus, like how I turn every conversation into martial arts. How high the trapeze artists flew, or how mighty the elephants seemed when they were being whipped. Uh-huh. The only thing that he didn't like were those scary clowns. Oh, why so serious, kid? Let's put a smile on that face. And it was always with this kid. It always went, and with it was always with
they
this
got
kid. It always went to the
they got
circus.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is at least me having to at least transcribe the whole thing from him at least trying to read through the whole thing. So if there's certain things that come up here, it's like this is it. It's exactly how it is exactly how he pronounces certain things coming up here. So
He'd be talking about math homework. He'd somehow managed to get onto the topic of the circus, but it was fine because he was so charismatic and all of his friends loved him.
yeah, so,
So in school, Billy's teachers always had a warm look in their eye, a glimmer, if you will, when they looked at Billy because he always cared about his grades. They knew he was a student, a learned individual. They knew he cared about schooling, and he did his homework promptly. Even though he may not have been the brightest in class. I'm going to pass this over to you now.
Okay. Now, Billy's favorite subject was easily math. He was attracted to the logical precision and the clean order of the mathematical. There was no ambiguity, only cold machine precision, which is what Billy liked a lot, as it reminded him of the circus. Billy had an appreciation for these mathematical things. He thought they were fascinating and fantastical. He maintained a notebook that was as broad and as deep as the notebook of Leonardo da Vinci, with backwards handwriting and all sorts of fanciful diagrams. That said, he was never a math whiz. In fact, he barely passed addition and subtraction. Division and multiplication were well beyond Billy's means intellectually, and he just didn't have the tools upstairs. However, he managed to pass multiplication and division thanks to memorizing all his tables in grueling after school study sessions with Mr. Myth-Tetcher, whom Billy quite liked on the account of Mr. Myth-Tetcher's gentle nature. No matter how many times Billy failed a math problem, Mr. Myth-Tetcher never used violence or humiliation to train Billy. Instead, he only used love and kindness, circus analogies, and the occasional sweet treat. One day, during homeroom, Miss Tetcher had everyone stand in front of the class with their hands at their sides and announce what they want to do with their lives. She told everyone that what they choose to do with their lives at this tender young age would indeed affect them later in life and actually come true.
Sure.
Young Petter said that he wants to be a soldier, firing a big, powerful gun and dressing sharply like a strong young lad. Jonathan said that he would like to become a great and important thinker with lots of credentials so that he can help the world see what is right and help everybody see the error of their ways and help them envision a brighter future. Miss Tetcher said this was very ambitious indeed. Sarah said that her dream is to have lots of babies, lots and lots, endless stream of babies. Everybody was really happy to hear this because they always thought Sarah would make a good mommy and that she had lots of good DNA and should pass it on to the next generation.
I'm
I
going
hear
to
you
take
laughing
over.
over.
I'm going to take
I
over
hear
for
you
this.
laughing. I hear you laughing. Don't do it. Let me finish here.
Then it
Then it
came
came.
Billy's turn to expose himself in front of all these strangers. He was red in the face because he knew that if he spoke the truth, it would sound absurd. It would sound like a crazy person. Perhaps this absurdity would be met with laughter and derision. Or maybe they would just all kill him. But in any case, to tell the truth out loud was totally off the table. He knew there was no way it could be done. So, thinking quickly, doing his best to appear sane, Billy said, I would like to be a big soldier with a big gun and lots of sparkling badges on my chest. And of course, everybody clapped and hooted at Billy's sensible aspiration. They were happy with him. But deep down, Billy boiled.
Chapter 2 Billy's Big News. Later that night, Billy's mother came in with scented massage oils and all kinds of sugary treats to help Billy get off to dreamland. He was in no mood for such trifles, however,
Neverland.
and he shooed his mother away with a flick of his hand. He curled himself into a tight ball, tore at the blankets quietly. His nails hurt, his eyes throbbed. He relived his classroom performance with 1,000 different endings. In some, his classmates kicked him and screamed in his face after hearing his weirdness. In another, he closed his eyes and swung his fists savagely, giving anyone who got in the way a good knock. In another, he cried and cried until the police came and locked him up for blubbering. And then in one of Billy's dreamlike musings, all his face's classmates clapped and hooted for him. They poured their love into him. It was so pure. Miss Tetcher was beaming the warmest smile and hugging everyone. Because Billy had self actualized and become more than a man. Billy was a man, but he was a man of his own design. And a man not on anyone else's terms, but his own. I'm God. I own this. This is my world. I'm God, bitch, he screamed, beating his chest. He held his
Okay.
trophy high and said, My life goal is to go to the circus. At last, Billy was able to smile and fall asleep. He wasn't man enough to tell the truth in real life, but at least he could speak freely in his dreams.
I guess I'll take over from here. The next day at school, there was a big crowd gathering around. Some were whispering, most were yelling like apes and getting quite rowdy. Billy grabbed a hold of his best friend. I still can't get over
Petter.
Petter, what the fuck?
That's how he pronounces it. It is Petter.
Okay then. Yeah, and drew him aside. What's going on? Billy asked. You don't, Billy. You mean you don't know? I swear to God, man, you must have mashed potatoes in that big head of yours. How come you got a big old nugget if you're so slow? I thought big heads were supposed to be smart. Pay attention, dummy. It looks like there's some kind of big circus coming to town, and everybody's excited, Petter replied. Petter pulled away with a spiteful glance at Billy and dashed off, joining the fracas once more. Hey, fracas, come on! Billy stood motionless. His jaw dropped on the floor, and his eyes began to sparkle like the most expensive diamonds. This was it. This was Billy's moment to do what he had wanted to do for so long, to finally go to the circus and have a good time. He was so sure that his life was only ever going to be pure hell. But today he felt sunshine through the clouds. What the fuck kind of life are you living, bro? He knew that there was a God after all because the circus had come to town, that there was a heaven because the circus had come to town, and sometimes, even though life can seem like hell, you can get what you need to get by because the circus came to town.
Yeah.
The whole rest of the class, the whole rest of the day, Billy went from class to class with a blissful blank look on his face. In sociology, they all learned how important prison is. Hey, Vegeta, don't drop the soap. In math class, the teacher talked about how to survive on less than $1 a day. Wow, this was a long time ago. In science class, they talked about all sorts of exotic poisons. All these things are things that Billy would typically be wrapped in. Very interesting topics to him with his Leonardo da Vinci-like intellect. I thought they said that he was bad with math. But today, they had no effect on the lad. Instead, Billy traveled the world in his dreams up here. He envisioned a perfect land of circus fancy. Only in Billy's fantasy circus, there were no clowns. How
What
can
a
you have a
shame.
circus without any clowns?
Okay. We all float up here, Billy. We all float.
You want to take over from here?
Yeah. Everybody in the audience was laughing and cheering, screaming at the top of their lungs for the circus to never stop. Elephants charged out in regal adornment. There were lions, and of course, men whipping the lions nonstop to make them dance and play. It was just a fantastic scene. The circus tent was as big as the world. It wasn't just three ringer. This one went on forever and ever. And in each ring, a sight more fanciful than the last. Men in top hats and elegant tuxedos barked orders down megaphones. Life young bodies swung from the rooftop on trapezes made of gilded metal and lacquered wood. There was a whole squadron of Eastern European adolescents whose creamy flesh radiated heat and life as they slithered around like a pile of snakes. Then he snapped out of it. A bell rang somewhere. School, yes. Back in school. The day was done, and every second of time passed meant that the circus was that much closer. Billy gathered his books and his clothes and walked home. Chapter 3: The beginning of the end for Big Billy. Billy's mother was a good one. She never drew attention to Billy's lack of intelligence or seeming inability to
I
get
thought he had
anything right.
Leonardo da Vinci-like intellect. What the fuck?
This is also a big dummy. And she always made sure that there was something yummy to eat. Today was no exception. The table was loaded with hot goodies, all steaming on sterling silver platters under glass. Some of Billy's favorites: fried chicken, pizza, and of course, cookies. He rubbed his hands together greedily in anticipation of the feast.
So I'm presuming,
I
yeah.
like to imagine this is like one of the trope that you'd see in a lot of kids movies where it's like they have like this huge array of things for breakfast, but it's like they gotta hit the bus, so they just grab like a apple or something, and they don't even
Hmm.
touch anything else that's on the table.
Yeah, I was gonna say, also, I just want to say, with all of this, it seems like Billy would be too fat to be in the circus.
Well, he just wants to go see the circus. That's his dream.
Hmm.
So once his mother took a seat, and they both said grace, it was time to dig in. Billy started with some nice healthy pizza, sure. His mom always made the best fresh hot pizza. Tonight was no exception. He almost burned the roof of his mouth on the scalding cheese, but luckily
Jesus Christ.
doused his
Ow.
gullet with ice cold soda just in time. A combination of sweet
That doesn't
soda
help, by the
and
way.
salty cheese activated pleasure centers that Billy didn't even know he had, and he belched
I
appreciatively.
thought he
Wow,
liked pizza.
I wish that happened to me, man. Billy's mother gave him a stern look, reminding him not to belch at the table, but she knew he was in hog heaven right and not to be interrupted. Such silly reprimands. She loved feeding him and loved making him happy. She lived vicariously through him in many ways, knowing that he was well fed, nourished her soul in a way that food could not. Billy went in for another handful of candy, and she smiled. So, anything interesting happen at school today? Yeah, Mom. The school is coming to town. I can't wait to go. It's all I can think about, replied Billy. Billy's mother grew silent, cold. Dwarf drained from her face, and her smile disappeared. But Billy, we had an agreement. You're only allowed to go to circuses if you have good grades, Mom said dreadfully. Billy looked down at his report card, which was on a silver platter in front of him. There, in big, bold letters, were his grades for the year: D, 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 and in math, an F.
I thought
Those
he had
grades
a
would give me.
Leonardo da Vinci-like intellect.
Yeah, but he's also a big dummy. And those kind of grades would at least give you a grade A ass whooping because Asian parents. He gulped, and the
Okay.
scalding hot pizza cheese now felt like slick vomit in his throat. The aftertaste of root beer was oppressive. It felt like a death sentence in his mouth. In between his teeth and under his gums, Billy shuddered as an arctic chill overcame his whole body at once. A million years could have passed in those brief seconds. But, Mom, Billy whispered before his voice turned into a dusty rattling and his stomach tied itself into a pretzel. You knew there was nothing to argue about. The agreement was signed in blood, and his loving mother had done nothing but give him support and affection, and uphold her end of the deal. Billy had squandered that most precious resource: time. Instead of studying, he played silly games. Instead of practicing and memorizing, he dawdled outside in the sunshine and whistled cute melodies to himself. He was given such gifts by God. He could have risen to the greatest of heights. He could have invested money in foreign companies and already had been ready to retire at an age where his compatriots are struggling to find their first real job.
What?
He
What?
he could have trained his mind and body to become the greatest fighter, a champion unrivaled by any other, using devastating kicks and whirlwind blows to topple beastmen in the great arena. A hard life for sure, but one with many rewards. He would have had women falling all over him, prostrating themselves for the chance to experience his gladiator sweat.
I thought he
Something
already
I
did.
do.
Okay, well, I guess this is my
We
time to
just,
take over. What is going on here? Billy could have started a company, started his own business, and learned the hard way what it takes to be an entrepreneur. He would have built this company by hand with only a few employees at first. I thought he was like 12. Growing with
I was like
shrewd
7.
decisions. 7. Ew, that's worse. That's worse. Why? Why is he why are they talking about I was like, oh yeah, this 7-year-old could totally like rule the fucking world with his martial arts and have all the bitches falling over him if he just applied himself. Uh-huh. Okay.
This
And
is
maybe some luck.
serious.
Eventually, being bought out by a huge multinational for a tidy sum. But instead, Billy had led the life of a Dufon.
There you go. You said it right.
I figured that there's only one way you could pronounce that. Idle, hedonistic. It had made Billy fat and lazy. Yeah, I thought. Like the YouTube user vomited shit who is probably typing a comment right now about my facial hair. God damn it, Sam. You need to be lightweight, agile, ready to tear someone's head off or live out of your car for a few months if need be. Billy was no such animal. Comfort, free time, the things we take as luxuries Billy had come to take for granted. And now all of that was crashing down on him like a house of cards. Oh, cards made of steel. Steel that was sharp. He was unable to muster any words. Without so much as a glance toward his mother, Billy trudged off to bed. Billy trudged off to bed, staring 1,000 miles away and whispering in nothing in particular to no one. Chapter 4, Billy's Big Black Cloud. You know what?
Hey,
Could be
you're
worse.
thinking
It could
something
be.
else with that one.
It could be it could be a different type of BBC. The next day, Billy
The
went to
British
school again.
Broadcasting Network?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Absolutely sick with grief. All his friends knew there was something wrong with him, and they all knew it would be better not to awaken whatever rage was lurking by trying to help him out. I'm now just picturing, like, the Vegeta Super Saiyan theme playing faintly, as though it's playing on a very loud boombox through a very thick door, just following him throughout.
The Final Flash theme or
Yeah,
something?
the Final Flash. You know, the one with the piano that goes dun 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 dun. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
They all kept a healthy distance, and that's the way Billy wanted it. He sat through all the same boring classes. In sociology, the teacher was just talking about how all the races are equal, and the differences are just cosmetic. Excuse me, some elementary level nonsense that Billy felt anybody with 2 eyes should be able to deduce on their own. No help from a teacher necessary. In math, the professor talked about how breaking things can actually help the economy because the jobs created fixing what was broken. I used to work for people like that. It was a fucking nightmare. This is a topic that Billy usually gets excited about and agrees with, but today he just couldn't get out of first gear, mentally speaking. So no one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke, your love life's the away. Feels like you're always stuck in second gear. It hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you as the rain starts to fall. Well, that's enough of the Friends theme for one video. Back to the story.
Hey, we're not white. You're too white to be singing that song, man.
Am I? It's like the whitest show ever made. At least the internet tells me.
Yeah, this is pretty white.
Then lunchtime came around. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Today was spice candy and hot soda day, which was
What?
usually Billy's favorite lunch day.
What?
Hey, I wish I could have that, but this is unrealistic for 2014 standards. Thank you, Michelle Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
There was a long table set out in the cafeteria with a fine white cloth draped over it. The table was so long that if you stood at one end, you could barely see the other. It was loaded to capacity with silver platters and silver serving bowls, all full of one or another variety of delicious delectable. Tall bean bun coffee machines brimming with syrupy soda were set out as well. At the bottom of each bun coffee machine, the rubber nipples that dispensed soda were dripping and pulsing, ready to be tapped by the
What?
lucky boys and girls. Now, this extravagant affair usually would pique Billy's curiosity at the very least. In fact, some days he'd be
What?
foaming at the mouth and chomping at the bit, ready for some of that sweet, delicious candy. Come on, you don't know rubber nipples like what you see on like baby bottles and
I
shit?
work at a fucking restaurant, dude. We don't have that shit on the soda fountain.
But today the feeling just wasn't there. It had been over an hour since breakfast. Normally he would be famished. Jesus Christ,
Over
what
an
kind of boy is
how
he?
how much over an hour? How often does this motherfucker eat?
But for some reason, today the candy just didn't have a good taste. You know how some days the candy doesn't just taste right when you eat some candy? It's not sweet as it should be. The piping hot soda felt lukewarm to him.
Hot soda? How?
His heart just wasn't there. Billy sat like a black cloud at his usual table, surrounded by friends, who were all laughing and stuffing themselves full. Billy wanted his friends to notice him pouting and fawn over him. He wanted their day to be ruined as well. He wanted anything, some sort of attention. They would just not acknowledge the funk that he was in. They kept laughing, tossing jawbreakers into each other's mouth, catching them, playing and tickling, pouring hot soda everywhere. Now, the whole time, Billy's mom had been watching the events of the day through a wireless webcam that she hid on Billy's shirt collar.
All of a sudden, it's
Bill,
science fiction.
because, well, it's already fiction because parents wouldn't really be caring that much. Billy just didn't know it, but all his pouting and bellyache and blubbering, all his pain and anguish, his mother had been watching right alongside him. She was a stern woman, and she always stuck to her guns when it came to the rules. But she also had a big heart, a big one, big. And when it came to her son, she would do anything. She would do absolutely anything for her son, no matter how degrading. She cried tears of pure sympathy, watching Billy get along so painfully that day. She was crying, watching Billy through that hidden webcam. She felt his pain. Billy carried on as one does after some major tragedy, smiling a hollow smile, walking slowly, feeling numb and cold all over, emotions, but dead inside. A young boy should never have to feel such pain. You shouldn't even be aware that such pain is possible. Pain of a miscarried child, the pain of losing a loved one to a grueling battle of cancer. That day,
What?
Billy joined the ranks of the fallen. He went home, sitting at the back of the bus, away from his friends. He sat with his head down and his hands on his lap. Gone was the jubilant, boisterous lad that once terrorized the other boys on the bus with boogers and noogies and all sorts of boy play. Now was just a strange kid there, one whom nobody wanted to talk to or look at or have a laugh with. And all throughout, his mother watched on the webcam, streaming from Billy's shirt. She saw the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of the young lad, whom she had raised so gingerly. She understood the gravity of this moment. She understood that if she didn't act, Billy would be broken forever. She had visions of him growing up in a home for
It's
juveniles. being subjected to all the
It's
weirdness that young delinquents partake of.
it's been a fucking day.
Strange games in the showers and undercovers all at night that nobody should play. She knew all this because she used to run a juvenile home called Lord of the Flies, home for desperate tramps back in Cleveland, Ohio. And so she acted. She did the impossible, bending one of her own rules to save a boy's life. When Billy gets home, he'll be in store for the surprise of a lifetime. I think we should let you read the next chapter.
Yeah, I know. I was
Get you
about to take
some.
over
You need
anyways.
you need to get some reading time in.
Yeah, no. Alrighty then. So, Billy slammed the giant ornate brass doors behind him spitefully as he walked into the
Hey,
grand
that's the
foyer.
chapter title.
Chapter 5, Billy catches a big break. Sorry. Billy slammed the giant ornate brass doors behind him spitefully as he walked into the grand foyer. He stomped across the marble floor and started up the carpeted curving stairway. How rich is this bastard? With the sculpted mahogany banister. Very rich. When his mother appeared wearing an expensive and elegant gown and stopped him. Where do you think you're going, young man? The words young man were emphasized so as to be electric, and they made Billy get butterflies in his stomach
No.
and think of stockings. I'm going to my room. There's nothing in this world for me, so I might as well die. Billy replied, 100% serious. Not so fast. You've got quite a bit of homework waiting for you in the den. Homework, said Mother. What? I've already got all my homework from school, objected Billy. Well, I special ordered more for you from the website, and it's arrived. Better get to it before it's too late. I know Sam Hyde is a weird motherfucker, but this is some bullshit.
Hey, there's a homework for getting. There's a site for getting homework. And it's not just any website.
There's
It's
a
the
website for
website.
everything.
It's the website for homework.
Billy slumped to the floor in agony. His skin felt like it was on fire and covered in ice. So, fun fact, you can actually have that happen. So, if you put capsaicin cream on your skin and then you put like mint cream on your skin, they activate different sensors in the body, and you feel like you're both too cold and too hot at the same time. It is not a fun sensation. He looked at his Breitling Chronomat 44. Tony, what the fuck is that? What is
That's
a
it.
Breitling Chronomat 44? It was already after midnight. What?
Oh shit, that's an actual real thing. That's a real thing. It's a watch.
How much is this fucking thing?
Looking at it, Jesus. It's like Super Chronomac BO144 running at about Jesus fuck.
$3,000.
Oh no, it's way more expensive than that.
I
On
saw
on the actual
more.
website for Breitling, it's running about 11K.
Good
Look about
God! This 70-year-old fat kid lives in a fucking mansion, dreams about the circus, and has a watch that costs more than my car.
Get ready, because it's gonna get more ridiculous than this.
Okay, so Billy slumped to the floor in agony. His skin felt like it was on fire and covered in ice. He looked at his expensive fucking watch. It was already after midnight, and he's just now getting home from school. Somehow he had blown the entire day, and for a moment he racked his brain, trying to imagine how would he let all the hours slip by just like his life had. He had laid in bed for hours. He knew that because he was sore in the spots that were touching the bed and on top of his back, it hurt like he'd been kicked by a black football player.
Specifically a black football
Specifically
player.
A black one. It would not have hurt the same way if a white, Hispanic, or European, sorry, or Native American or Eskimo had kicked him, he knows he's an elite level racist. He used what little brain power he had to make a note about time flying when you're miserable. That's the opposite. And he returned to laying in a pile on the first step of the staircase. I thought he was in bed.
You can say it is his bed, though.
His mother, with eternal patience, watched Billy, her arms folded across her big chest. Aha.
Mommy.
Yeah. Oh my, we're getting awfully Freudian up in here. Now, you go in that room and get to doing your homework. I'd like to see some enthusiasm. I want you to enjoy this, because I sure am. No. Mother said. Billy picked himself up somehow. Was that all an exaggeration? Was all of this an exaggeration?
Hey, we're stretching this out to whatever logical limit he's taking. He's taking the original
Picking himself up from his own funeral pyre of self-pity was the hardest thing Billy had ever done or will ever do. I will fucking hold you to that one, Sam.
It was harder than lifting 400 pounds overhead.
Bullshit.
It was harder than painting a masterpiece painting.
That depends on what your definition of masterpiece is.
A Picasso.
Yeah.
It was harder than the lifetime of work necessary to appreciate fine living and enjoy things like fine cigars and pipes and Ferraris. It was harder than diamonds.
Fucking seven, bro.
Billy somehow managed to stand up like a human being again. Somehow he found the strength to pull himself out of his depths. In the den waiting for him was a silver platter. He bet his life there wasn't candy inside. On it, in a single envelope, most assuredly containing the dreaded homework that Billy's mom had ordered custom from a website. Not a website. It's the website.
Gotta go to the homework website. Get your homework.
I got it custom made just for you. It's one problem split up into 15 parts. The TV was in a den and was off. Billy looked at the dead television. For all the fun he had once. He imagined playing snowboard games, using his body to sway with the rhythm of an incredible snowboarding challenge. He would customize his boards, spending real-life money in exchange for in-game money, and then use that to buy the fanciest, most expensive add-on parts, all in an effort to make his snowboard faster and more agile. He spent over $700 in real money. Was all worth it to him.
That's fucking weak sauce.
On a snowboard game. But it was all worth it to him because his board was fully equipped with the latest custom
snowboard game.
Carbon.
Yeah, no, fuck that.
Fully equipped with the latest custom carbon fiber rods, sleek aluminum accent pieces, and topped off with a glistening candy paint with a racing stripe. It was a red board with a blue stripe, and Billy even named his board, called it the Dominator. He would play challenging maps, the hardest maps in the game, with rivals from online, men whom Billy had never met in real life. Billy wanted to, maybe one day. He would battle Billy for golden trophy. Billy dominated all of them. That's why he called his board a Dominator, because he dominated every aspect of the game. Well, it was pre-game psychological warfare in chat rooms, or dancing through the snow like a wintry god on his mighty board.
Oh, so this is one of those squeakers I used to run into back in the day.
Those memories were trash now. All of Billy's memories were trash. And soon, Billy would kill himself just as soon as he finished his homework. Jesus.
Blue early morning, fog I see, visions of the things to be. The thought occurred to Billy that his life was such a dead end, and that as a person he was so ineffective and stupid that all of his memories, even the most pleasurable ones, maybe you've had this thought yourself, are meaningless. I mean, briefly, but I get
I
back
don't
to
know.
I get back to my fucking life.
I don't know. Maybe for a little bit. And then I realized, hey, I got beer in the fridge. So it's like, go have myself a good time.
Tomorrow, tomorrow, I love you tomorrow. Not only meaningless, but something about them felt dirty. His self-esteem was so low, Billy thought that a piece of dirt like him doesn't even deserve to have memories. What? Billy
Here we
thought about it
go.
for a moment, verifying and double-checking that his logic was correct, and he nodded at his head, agreeing with himself that what he actually deserved was to be kept in a small cage, being hit and hurt all day by bad men. All those memories of snowboard questing, all the delicious pizza and cookies and candy that his mom made for him, those are memories of a prince or a king. Okay, so Kevin, that was if Ben was going to be able to make it today. Ben is not able to make it today. Second, this is not fan fiction. So
This is
Kevin says, I thought
original
you
fiction.
schmooze were supposed to be watching The Boys, not reading fan fiction. No, so this is a piece of original fiction as made by infamous terrorist Sam Hyde.
He keeps getting away with it.
I heard he had something to do with that video game developer who tried to kill the president.
Among many things. He's also the ghost of Kiev.
Yes, yes. This is pretty much fan fiction. Kevin, this is not about a fandom. This is about something. I mean, technically, I guess you could say this is circus fan fiction.
Not really. It's more like doing like an original
I don't.
story. It's an original story based off of some joke that either Eddie Sam says has gone on record saying either he made up or something that he had heard
Mm,
some time ago. That's something that's according to him, by the at least years him talking about what it was based off of.
okay. Billy was no king. Billy was a dumb animal, he thought. He wished more than anything that aliens would beam down and use a brain sucker to remove all his good memories and leave him with only the bad ones. All of a sudden, we turned into eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. All this time, he was inching closer and closer to the homework without thinking about it. We still haven't gotten up to the fucking home. Oh my god.
I'm
The
just
game
making
show
you.
buzzer had gone off. His pity party was now over. It was time to face the music. His mother watched and tried to stifle his smile, knowing full well what would come next. She was about 6 feet tall, humana, and her gown was electric blue. She appeared to float on air. Is this fucking Rosalina?
No, because Rosalina is also hot.
All I know about her is that she's tall and she's got big tits.
And she gets homework from the homework website.
She goes to the homework store. It's right next to the fucking cake factory. And her smile glowed brightly. Billy reached for the envelope. He closed his eyes and imagined standing at the edge of a steep cliff, looking down at the rocks below and flying to them as fast as possible. He opened his eyes again. No such luck. Here was reality, laughing and spitting his face. He gulped so hard, it felt like he was swallowing a crabapple whole. The envelope was damp. Why? And it sagged in Billy's fingers as he picked it up. He used one of his long fingernails. Why?
He's got like one single long fingernail.
Yeah, that's his coke
Little
now.
Hank.
He's a rich kid. Inside, there were 2 small pieces of Bristol board. These were unlike any homework Billy had ever seen. What kind of devilish homework had his mother found to torture him with? Go on, pull them out, his mother said, barely holding back laughter. I'm just picturing the stereotypical hentai MILF laughter.
Oh!
Yeah, that.
What would that be like? R, because that's more
I
like
mean, that's
rich.
I mean, that's like the thing that you pulled out is essentially Queen from Deltarune, but, close enough. His mother said, barely holding back laughter. He did so, and out came 2 tickets to the circus.
Plot twist.
Plot twist! Billy immediately kneeled and keeled over weeping. His mother stood on her tiptoes and clapped her hands. Tiptoes, and she's fucking 6 feet tall. God damn.
She's like Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil 8 or something.
Does she have the booty to back it up? His mother stood on her tiptoes and clapped her hands. She ran over to the lad. Billy was weeping uncontrollably and nearly foaming at the mouth. I have the clip from Avatar in my head now. His chest felt like 1,000 fire fairies were dancing in it like an ancient lantern. This can't be reality. His mother must have played some sort of cruel trick on him. Could it really be? Was she truly allowing him to go to the circus? He looked up at Mother and instantly knew it was not a prank. There's going to be clowns at the circus, Billy. Don't go, it's a trap. There she stood, her face beaming a divine golden sunbeams of obliterating kindness.
That sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I know. Billy melted into the carpet. Well, how's he going to get to the circus now? His body was no longer in his own control. His hips are moving on their own. Dear God. He was a handful of warm putty in his mother's hands. No, I don't want to know about Billy's warm putty in his mother's hands.
God, finish this up. You're going insane.
Mother laughs, but kneeled down to pet him and wipe his teeth.
Dude, you're already going crazy. We haven't even gotten... We get into the chapter soon that kind of drew my friend insane because of how long it's drawn out
in
again.
the membrane. So if that's the case, when are you guys going to read Amnesia? Well, you can put that on our list. Billy gets ready for the big time.
Yeah, Kevin, shoot that my way, so that we can try and check it out. And you can see me. You can probably see me go insane from reading some bad fanfics.
Weeks? I thought the circus was already in town. Why would you not just go now?
Because I got to set up.
Weeks leading up to the circus were something of a whirlwind for Billy. He did very well in school and had lots of fun with his friends, but all of his memories from that period blurred together like different flavors of ice cream all melting together. The sole focus of his every waking thought was the circus. He imagined the graceful sky of dance of the trapezist swinging to and fro. He could see in vivid color the brightly quilted magic coat the ringleader would wear. He smelled fresh hot peanuts wafting in from every direction. Excuse me. The circus was weeks away, but in his mind he was already there. Then the day came. Hopefully Billy doesn't come as well. Immediately upon waking, Billy could feel electricity crackling in the air. Something was up. I don't want to know about the electricity crackling in his air. Where is your fucking father?
Well, that's it. They're about to explain it.
His dad's a clown, isn't it?
No.
Billy, the time has come, and so have I. The satin sheets on his bed felt like 1,000 well-trained fingers massaging him as he slid out gracefully to face the day.
I don't want to imagine that. He's 7 years old.
Why?
Jesus.
Sam, why? The plot twist is the father is the friends we made along the way.
Actually, no. There's an explanation for his dad, and backstory included. It's coming up.
He breathed deeply, knowing that today would be the day that he'd been waiting all his life for.
You're 7 years old, kid.
I've been waiting my whole life for just one. What? Today was circus day. Billy stood there, inhaling and exhaling with all the poise of a yoga master as he let the morning sun rays warm up his bare chest.
Keep going. Just keep rolling with it. Keep rolling
Bro's gotta get his morning tan in or else he's not gonna look hot for the honeys.
He's got to meet the clown. You know full well that
Billy's gonna fall in love with a clown girl and honk that Clussy all night long. He knew full well what life was full of good days and bad days, and he wasn't under any sort of delusion that his life was going to be all roses and candy canes from that point forward. He was a simple man, a boy rather, as he was still only 7 years old. Easily as it is to forget that, as mature as Billy was, I don't want to know how mature Billy is.
Don't worry, you'll find out.
I'm but your average 7-year-old boy with a voice like honey and 6'5".
It's like
And
Hanayama,
no, I'm not
Hanayama
talking
from
about my
Baki.
height.
It's like
Yeah,
Hanayama from Baki, who's your average 15-year-old boy.
I was gonna say, any character from JoJo, once they turn 13, they are immediately the beefiest motherfucker on the planet, but
Well, after part, well then, until after part 4, where they all turn into spindly Johnnies.
Alex, did you check your email? If so, what did you think? I read a little bit of it at the gym, and I'm going to be... Okay, so I just read ahead by accident. And it must... Who understood that life comes in all flavors, and it must be enjoyed like a fine cigar or pipe, slowly and tranquilly. Why? He looked at the photo of his father on the nightstand. Dad was a ruggedly handsome man who had been proud of that little lad, Billy. Billy kissed the photograph and sent a silent prayer for his father who was away at the Great War. It's World War One, bitch!
No, it's the Great War.
Plot twist! First World War, Wonder Woman's beating up proto-Nazis over in Europe somewhere. It upset him not having a father figure around, but at the same time it felt good knowing that his dad was doing his part to make the world better, and also that his dad wasn't a coward. In fact, far from a coward, Billy's father was a general. Why? Those are not mutually exclusive.
Well, he's a pretty badass general, though. He looked around his room.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
He looked around the room, some more, as if he were saying goodbye. Or maybe it was hello for the first time. He had all the latest designer toys that a young lad would want. There were all sorts of digital distractions and pixelated playthings. Plenty to keep a smart young fella entertained. Don't think about it. Get your head out the gut.
No, I was trying to figure out, like, digital distractions, pixelated playthings, Great War.
Video. He liked these games because it got his gears turning upstairs, mentally. True, there wasn't much food for thought in the real world or in books or anything. Just lots of boring humdrum, same old, same old. But in virtual reality, the playground of the mind, he was able to flourish. Today, however, there was something in the real world that was just as interesting as his Brainiac games. He looked over at his shelf full of coloring books. God knows how many hours Billy had spent painstakingly coloring in those beautiful images. Heck, each one looked like a diary from Michelangelo or Leonardo himself. He was quite handy with a crayon or a marker. In fact, some of his colorings were so good they could have gone into a fine art museum. And I imagine him being like some of those Pokemon illustrations from the end of the Deoxys movie, or some shit like that. Billy viewed such simplistic two-dimensional doodling less as art and more as a therapeutic exercise. In fact, he held all two-dimensional art in a low regard. Oh boy. To him, it was just a bunch of paper and ink.
Well,
painted ink on
Billy
paper.
is dead to me.
Nothing to be so proud of. The fact that his own skills rivaled any top artist didn't change his opinion. He was intellectually honest and held himself to the same standard. In his eyes, true art must encompass all 5 dimensions: 3 physical one, the 4th one time, and the 5th one user interaction and replay value. He had played video games that moved him more than any symphony or great cathedral ever could. He knew that even the greatest film ever couldn't hold a candle to even a mediocre game in terms of fun factor and character customization. Nevertheless, the coloring books were fun. Today, however, there was something else on his mind. His gaze turned to the lone circus poster on the wall, and he remembered that today would be the day of days. He felt alive as if God himself were breathing life into his mouth.
Behold
Kind of
the
like
day. The day of days.
Kind of like he was smoking a spiritual plant that God had planted in the ground. God's plant was a gift that allowed the mind to open and flourish and make you smarter, so that when you smoked it, you were able to see God and communicate with him. He was thankful, a little nervous, and most of all, he was full of relief. Time to pick a cool outfit. Choosing clothes was never Billy's strong suit, and it did help that he had so many of them. Billy's dad was a general, and generals have to dress sharply. So, of course, Billy had some walking closets of his own. Paced back and forth along one of the suit racks, running his fingers over the fine fabrics, picturing himself starring in the next James Bond movie. Billy didn't own any
As a
Armani.
7-year-old.
Billy didn't own any Armani because Armani is cheap trash. Glitzy bozo suits for
Okay.
Italian wapdagos who want to look richer than they are.
Please forgive
Italians
us.
Italians were always posturing and peacocking, buying Lincoln LSs and Moldova watches.
Right, and Billy with
Movado
his
watches.
$12,000 watch isn't posturing.
Italians don't care if the materials that Billy are poor, as long as it looks shiny and expensive. That's why Billy's always equated Italians with black people in his head. Even though Italians hate blacks, they're so similar. They love cheap, gaudy jewelry, they dress poorly, they drive fancy, flashy, unreliable cars, they're loud, obnoxious, and prone to violence. That's why Billy didn't own the Armani suits. In fact, he didn't own a single garment that you could find in Nordstrom's or Brook Brothers or any sort of retail store. We at the Metley Crew do not endorse these views.
What the fuck is going on here?
Why would a 7-year-old be thinking that? He's 7 years old. Billy knew that the clothes made the man. And the man isn't a gentleman unless he gets his tailored for him on Saddle Row. Thanks to his father being a famous and successful general, Billy is allowed to live a life with certain benefits, and custom tailored suits of the finest linen was one of them. At age 7, Billy was too young to smoke, but he did have a giant walk-in humidor in his room stocked with habaneros.
Habaneros! Habaneros are fucking peppers!
No, they're like I think they're a brand of cigar. La Perlas and San Cristobal's to be specific. He couldn't smoke them yet, but he loved the fruity smell and sophisticated aromas of these fine tobaccos.
Habanero cigars,
Pretty
premium
ladies.
Cuban Partagas habaneros. Those are Habanero 87. And,
Good.
The
And pretty ladies on the wrappers. The humidor was bigger than the main part of his bedroom, and it made him sneeze constantly. But he loved it because it reminded him of his father, who always had a big one in his mouth. Not that kind of one. Get your head out of the color. Billy decided to dress circus casual that day. He put on a nice pair of Abercrombie Fitch cargo shorts and topped it off with a sweater, also from Abercrombie. He sprayed himself a few times with Abercrombie cologne.
Okay,
because he wanted to smell
Tony,
good for the ladies.
Tony, I have news.
What?
The cheapest habaneros pack you can get is a sampler pack of Nistles is $35, and if you were to buy I'm just picking out Churchill's because Churchill is a name I know. Oh, because of Winston Churchill from yeah. So the most expensive box of cigars for habaneros you can buy is fucking $210. That's
Those must
1,
be
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is a 10-pack of cigars. And yeah, you do the math about how much a fucking room full of those would cost.
All right, let me finish this up.
So I could actually look that up. Yeah, keep going.
But it was a nice. Okay, he sprayed himself a few times with Abercrombie. Smell good for the lady, but it was also nice just to smell good and enjoy the smell yourself. It's luxurious. It's Abercrombie and Fitch cologne. He wasn't a fan of his natural body scent.
Oh,
It was a bit
Habana.
yucky.
Perla Habana.
It was a bit yucky, especially after not showering for several days like today. So we thought of
Mm.
Abercrombie Hum's sweet aromatic hints of sandalwood and cool aquatic breezy hints of sweet of sea peach would be a nice diversion from a salad dressing crotch. The
Why
circus
don't
poster
you
called to
just
him like
fucking
a
bathe,
Mayan
ya?
obelisk. It was time. Billy said a prayer, thanking God for blessing and also requesting the rest of the day to go by smoothly. God said, "You're welcome," but told Billy that nothing is promised
Okay,
and that he should live each day as if God were watching. Billy prayed
you
back,
should
saying that
live
he
each day
understood.
like God is telling you to take a fucking shower, you dirty little bastard.
God, Billy prayed back and said that he understood and that he loved God very much. Then Billy jumped onto the brass fire pole and slid down 3 stories to the garage.
Okay.
I always wanted to try and do that.
Yeah, me too. If he was versus Michelangelo, it'd be high as a kite. And then Kevin sent that message right before we went into the fucking paragraph about the goddamn cigars and about him smoking and getting closer to God. And man, dude, this little kid is real fucked in the head. I don't know what to say, bro.
Now, next up's the chapter that
Chapter 7.
is
Billy
going to
needs
be
a
a long
ride.
one. It's going to be a long one, and it's also probably going to drive you a little insane by the end of it.
Is his mom going to hit on him?
No,
I don't believe you.
we're going to be
Billy's
but we're going to.
mom has got it going on. Had said that since today was a special day, he gets to choose which car they drive. Mix of tense. He loved when he got to choose. It always meant that the day was a very special day indeed. Billy surveyed the massive airplane hangar of a garage and deeply inhaled the magical smells. Smells that'd be a lot more magical if you fucking bathed. There were faint petrol fumes from the car carburetors in the historic classical section of the garage, and rich, sumptuous leather smells from the European section of the garage. Is his dad like Jay Leno or something?
No, but Jay Leno is in this chapter.
Ah! Behind a red velvet rope in the corner, there was a very rare car indeed, a 1971 Lamborghini Diablo with all-wheel drive. Wheels and slaves inside the car to drive for you. Behind that, another pretty cool car. Yeah, Ferrari 500 SC. Yeah. I thought you said you didn't want flashy, unreliable cars, Billy.
He didn't, but his dad collects them.
A Ferrari 500 SC. Yeah, that's just pretty cool. The same kind black famous football player drives. The 500 SC was a neat car because it was one of Ferrari's fastest. It had 6,000 horsepower at the wheels because it had a train engine and there were no seats inside, only milk crates to save weight. Oh my fucking god. Billy thought to himself that they should have designed the car with wings because it can really fly. Ah. Of course, both cars being Italian, they were really trash, and Billy knew this, but they were such sexy trash, the Italians can be counted on for one thing. Actually, they can be counted on for a couple of things. You already talked about that with the fucking clothing earlier. Why? Because they can be counted on for at least one good thing, and it is absolutely hitting the head on the nail in the head when it comes to creating vulgar, loud, lewd monstrosities without even a nod or a wink of practicality or common human dignity. Imagine a zoo pen full of monkeys. Now give those monkeys mustaches and fine linen suits and let them play with their boo-boo and make giant boo-boo sculptures. What? Stroking themselves and yanking. They can't do that if they have nude female monkeys and male monkey private parts. This is a good metaphor for Italians. This is not a metaphor. This is not a simile. This might be, this might just be a straight up. This is the most racist thing I've ever read in my life, and I've read fucking Mein Kampf. Like Hitler doesn't hate the Jews as much as Billy hates Italians. Why? He decided that the Italian cars were better for looking at, less good for driving, so best to leave those in the garage today. Why would you buy a car that has milk crates instead of seats?
Because it wants to go fast.
Okay, so I'm just going to read through this next part quickly. To the left of them was his favorite car, a sleek all-black racer with big wheels and two big exhaust pipes. That was the Mehcast Car Bond, a one-off joint venture between Aston Martin and McLaren, commissioned by his dad, the General, during the English War. What English
You
war?
gotta just roll with it.
Got
That's
to
what I.
roll with the punches and get to what's real. Billy's dad was on an important mission to England, and the life of Damien Martin of Aston Martin fame, I'm not even going to look that up because I don't care at this point, was in danger.
This
Billy's
car
dad
stop.
used his guns to protect Damien, and so Damien said to Billy's dad that he could have any car he wanted in the whole showroom. Sorry, I bumped the microphone there. Billy's dad was a man of refined and elegant tastes. No shit. So no commonplace pedestrian car would do, no. Billy's dad wanted Damien Martin to make a special car just for him. The two swore a blood oath. There's a lot of those going around lately. Cars, homework,
Mothers.
normal things. Yeah. Mom's boobs. Which Billy's dad promised to collect once he had returned from a well-deserved vacation in Cambodia and Thailand, the fucking transsexual capitals of the world. I suppose we know what Billy's dad's into when he's not banging the big-tittied MILF who lives in his house. Actually, I don't know if it is in Cambodia, but it definitely is in Thailand. I was on a
Get the
movie
lady
set.
boys to.
Yeah, I was on a movie set where a guy was talking to this Hispanic girl about how the lady boys in Thailand look just as good as she does. And like, I don't know what his deal was, why he was talking about that. I just moved
Hey,
straight
dude.
on and went and grabbed some coffee because I was falling asleep. It was like, I
Well, yeah.
do not need to hear how this conversation started, and I don't want to know how it ends.
Well, yeah, because like they look, they all seem like they seem like they're women. But once you bring them into the hotel, they bust out a dong that's 3 times bigger than yours.
Then a
Actual,
strange turn of events came to pass. It was at the end of his second week in Cambodia, while Billy's dad found himself in an underground snake fighting club, sitting next to Jay Leno and Sabian McLaren of McLaren Motorcars fame. They were all having a good time watching King Cobras and Red Spitters duke it out on the dirt floor. They each held in their hands some fancy drink or another. Billy's dad had a champagne flute filled with sweet-smelling schnapps and Pepsi. Why would you mix that shit? Why?
well,
Okay.
s'more schnapps and Pepsi sound good right about now.
Jay Leno was drinking a ginger-infused whiskey that he had made specifically for him. That doesn't sound bad. Mixed with Mountain Dew, and Mr. McLaren was driving a car at 242 miles an hour through the snake pit over and over again. They all clapped and hooted and had a good time watching the snakes kill each other, striking at each other's necks and sending bits of snake flesh flying into the air. They hooted until their throats were sore, like they'd been sucking on pickled pepper popsicles. Say that 3 times fast.
Pickled pepper popsicles. Pickled pepper popsicles. Pepper popsicle.
All around them, young serving boys were gracefully winding in and out of the crowds, carrying silver platters and refreshing the drinks of anyone who was running low. They were so lithe and sleek, almost like snakes or fast cars themselves. It was hard not to watch them. They had dark, oily skin that shone under the harsh lights of the snake tent, and the rags they wore barely covered them at all. The traditional Cambodian diet was not high in fat, consisting mostly of snake meat. And this you could tell by watching their sinewy muscles flex and strain under their slick skin. That typically doesn't happen unless you're fucking dehydrated. As they tended to the men and their drinks, Jay Leno eased back in his chair and drank in the scenery with a satisfied smile. Why are you implying that Jay Leno is both gay and a pedophile, Sam? This is...
Hey, would that really surprise you, though?
I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised about hardly anything in the entertainment industry. Then something bad happened. Like something bad hasn't already happened. Like us starting to read this story. One of the servers.
Or Jay Leno appearing.
Hi, everybody, I'm Jay Leno. Ah, ha, 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 ha. One of the servers tripped and knocked over a giant porcelain urn filled to the brim with deadly snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes? A scaly avalanche toppled over, covering the dirt floor and sending the room into a panic. Jay Leno was dandling a server boy on his lap gingerly. He threw him off and rose to his feet, shrieking, "Ah!" It was pandemonium, everybody running and flailing like a giant mosh pit with no exit in sight. We are 1/3 of the way through this story, and there is no end in sight. It was then that Billy's dad, the general, showed his true bravery and saved the day. He pulled out his standard issue military X1 super assault rifle that he had always had on hand for just such emergencies. He quickly marked his target on his HUD and entered bullet time. How much coffee did you drink today, Billy's dad? One by one, with expert marksmanship, the brave general fired on the snakes using highly lethal plutonium rounds. 2 shots to the head for each snake, military-style double tap. Man, that sounds like overkill, but I guess there ain't no kill like overkill.
Hey, this man knows.
Pop, pop, a snake went down. Pop, pop, and another. Methodically, with speed and precision more suited to the Marine Corps than the regular Army. That's cute. The general smoked the room full of snakes like a carton of Chesterfields. I know that's probably a brand of cigar, but all I can picture in my head is a giant carton filled with dressers. Because Chesterfield is also a brand of dresser. On the other side of the snake pit, one of the server boys screamed. A deadly king cobra had wrapped itself along his slender leg and was working its way up between his thighs. I have seen enough hentai to know where this is going. The boy shook and vibrated with fear, worried for his life. Jay Leno watched, unable to pull himself away, but likewise unable to help in the situation. Billy's dad took aim. His aim was steady, and he gripped his assault rifle with a light touch. Squeezed too hard, and there's a chance that microvibrations from the body can be transmitted to the gun, making it just inaccurate enough to ruin someone's day. Yeah, especially considering there's like vital arteries in the legs. The snake's bulbous head was directly in the general's crosshairs, a very deadly place to be indeed. He fired. With a diabolical hiss, the king cobra's head flew clean off. The rest of the snake's body slumped to the ground at the boy's feet. The last of the snakes had been taken care of. Sabian McLaren raced over at nearly 200 miles an hour and draped the boy in a wet burlap drop cloth to comfort him. I can't thank you enough, General, for saving my son. Why is your son working here? As a piece of eye candy for gay Jay Leno. Gay Leno, if you will. Billy's dad was shocked, though Jay Leno seemed to know what was up, with a glimmer in his eye. I don't understand, said the general. You see, General, this is my son. He was undercover the whole time. I needed him to pretend to be a server boy. He was actually my son all along. I'm going to fucking shoot myself. What is this plot? Savian laughed to himself. All 3 men nodded and remarked to themselves how brilliant the trick had been.
That's a pretty awesome trick, though.
Why? Why? Hang on. Sabian McLaren? Sabian laughed to himself. Sabian McLaren? To think that the son of Sabian McLaren, head of McLaren Motor Cars, had been topping off the drinks and entertaining them all night long. By God, it was just too much. I'm going to let you take over from here, because I need to take a drink of water. Holy shit.
Don't worry, I'm about to drive you insane with this next part. After the commotion had died down and the drinks were finished, Mr. McLaurin took Billy's dad aside in one of his private suites. He told him there, as part of a blood promise, that he would create a Custom car for Billy's dad. No expenses paid. No
Excuse me.
expenses spared. Whatever. Whatever you
Is it
want.
the real no
That's all
expenses
he had to
spared, or is it the Jurassic Park no expenses spared?
All he had to do was say the word, and so Billy's dad did. A month later, back in England, Billy's dad met with the design teams of both McLaren and Aston Martin at the latter company's Buckinghamshire Skunk Works, a proving ground. There, in an airplane hangar full of top secret car components, Billy's dad sketched out ideas for the ultimate supercar on a giant blackboard. The car was amazing, with swooping lines to convey speed and angular shapes to convey aggressiveness. It was to have rims as big as pizza plates and a specifically designed train engine making over 10,000 horsepower. Wow, what a car! The top designers for Aston and McLaren all shook their heads in disbelief, kicking themselves for not inventing this beast first. But they were only just learning what Billy's dad knew all along. Generals are the best car designers. The next part is where the car gets its name from. Of course, McAston is a polyphonic pseudonym comprised of the root companies Aston Martin and McLaren. Simple language onomics. But the name Carbon comes from construction of the car made of carbon.
I thought it was
It was a
Car Bond, as in a reference to James Bond, which they referenced earlier.
No, because it's made of carbon. It was essential for Billy's dad that his dream car not only be fast and sleek, but also lightweight, so it could get bigger air on jumps. This and engineers decided that a full carbon fiber construction would be necessary, utilizing methods foreseen in the auto industry. Of course, the wheels, body panel, spoiler, and hood all had to be carbon. But the McAston engineers weren't content doing every other supercar company did. They had to raise the bar and take things a step further. Okay. The entire frame was crafted out of one thread of carbon fiber. Titanium lug nuts were replaced with super lightweight carbon fiber lug nuts. Special tires were crafted for McAston by Cooper, made entirely out of carbon fiber. The car ran on carbon fiber gasoline, and all the windows were made out of the special transparent carbon fiber composite. Then, in the interest of saving weight, the seats were removed and replaced with lightweight carbon fiber milk crates. All the heavy components that weigh a regular road car down were moved. The McAston Carbon had no air conditioning, no radio, no lights, no door, and the transmission only had one gear. Of course, it was made of carbon fiber. In fact, the only creature comfort added to the car were two Hitachi Magic Wand vibrators installed in the seats to help the driver and passenger relax on long races. The McAston Carbon was a truly wonderful car, Billy's favorite by a long shot. But today called for a car that was even more special. Today called for a royal chariot, not some souped up race machine. And Billy knew just what car he wanted his mom to drive him to in the circus. To the circus in. Yeah, so that whole thing was basically pointless. At the end of the garage, there was an old
Fucking
wooden door. Through that door, there lay a dimly lit, unassuming hallway, full of tattered old racing posters and vintage gas station memorabilia. Down that old disused hall, past the dirty bathrooms that were used by house servants, past a noisy kitchen where all the servants boiled rat meat for themselves, past the furnace room where an army of sweaty black men shoveled coal into roaring fires. There was another wooden door with a pictogram of a horse on it. Looking at this door, you wouldn't make anything of it. It was just a dusty old wooden door at the end of the hallway that you probably didn't want to be in. You wouldn't even care to guess what was behind it, but if you did, you would say something like janitorial supplies or maybe a boiler. Billy approached the door and pulled out a Bluetooth-enabled remote. He pressed a button, and a small wooden panel slid up on the side of the door, revealing a fingerprint ID pad. He put his thumb on the pad, and there was a cacophony of digital blips and bloops. Bloop, 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 bloop. A Macintosh rainbow spinning icon appeared momentarily, indicating that the system was busy. Then, with a burst of pneumatic pressure, the wooden door shot straight up into the ceiling with a doom sound effect. Beyond the doorway, there was a clean room with black walls and a black floor polished to a mirror finish. In the middle of a room, underneath a single spotlight, was a giant rotating platform. On that platform was a Rouge Stage 3 racing Ford Mustang in fire engine red. In fire engine red. "Hello, Billy," a soothing female voice said. The voice was heavenly and, and appeared to emanate from the very walls themselves. "Hello, Musty," Billy said, striding towards the car. I think I'll let you take a turn now.
What was the point of bringing up the Aston Martin?
We're dragging out this story as much.
The Stage 3 Rouge Performance Package was no ordinary tune-up job. In fact, the car had been so thoroughly modified that to call it a Ford Mustang was not quite accurate. The wheels were big pizza plates, and it had 15,000 horsepower train engine. You are obsessed with that. The insides are fully customized with no crate seats to save weight. Fuck! And a screen in the center console for watching Blu-ray movies and playing games. On the screen currently was a 3D woman's face that was looking at and making eyes at Billy. For a computer, she was quite beautiful. Hi, Cortana! What the fuck are you doing here? This is Musty, the Rouge programmed onboard AI that was designed to be at the driver's beck and call. I just read ahead by accident. Musty then loaded with answers to Billy's OkCupid questions. He's 7. So her personality, in a way, was meant to complement his. You wouldn't get what we're... You wouldn't guess what we're going, Musty, said Billy. Now, if I only had one guess, I'd guess the circus, Musty replied. How'd you know that? Because your mother already came down to have me scan the QR codes from the tickets. In fact, we'd better hurry if we're going to catch up to her. She was supposed to be driving him in the car of his choice. What the fuck? Was he trying to make a story that was more nonsensical than the Eye of Argon?
Hey, at the very least, this one's legible.
True, yeah. Yeah, Eye of Argon, for those of you who don't know, those of you who did not watch the CFA reading of that, is a story that was originally printed on stencils cut from a typewriter, and it was barely able to be read. Some letters were like double struck or overstruck, or it's insane. Go watch that video, or better yet, excuse me, go watch Gabe and Yahtzee do that video.
I recommended that. I also recommended that to a couple buddies of mine who do a podcast reading all sorts of fanfic and weird stuff on the internet.
Yeah, we did. We also did a story called The Dark Incubus. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think so.
It's Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter Mpreg fic, where Severus Snape is the most desirable man on the face of the planet.
Yeah. Nah, they read stuff like what was it? What's the infamous one, Harry Potter one that everyone talks about? My Immortal, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another Zelda one that they did that was something like My Inner Life.
Okay.
That one, a good chunk of that one is just erotica and sex. Very detailed sex. I maybe want to gouge my eyes out.
Not sexy sex, just
detailed sex.
Probably
shouldn't be. Probably don't want to even try and read that on stream.
Yeah, no.
Traumatize our audience.
Trust me. Age restrict the entire channel at that point.
Yeah, just check it out on their channel. Shout out to Rodent Reading Hour. Check their stuff out if you want.
Go check out the Rodent Reading Hour for weird ass shit.
From my friends Hedgehog and Mice Man. Both of them also writers, so they also have their own 2 cents about how to do writing and everything.
In fact, we better hurry if we're going to catch up to her. You already left in the Nissan Skyline GTR Nürburgring edition, and that's a pretty fast car, but not fast enough. Billy strapped himself... Hang on a second.
Billy strapped himself down to the milk crate seat and punched in the coordinates from Musty to auto drive. On screen, 3D woman winked at Billy. She looked like Orchid from Killer Instinct. She was so fucking hot.
Okay, well, I'm back.
Billy thought to himself momentarily that he wished that real life women were hot as video game women. Billy wasn't old enough to know anything about love, but he often thought to himself that if in the future it was okay to marry computers, he would want to marry Musty. Musty was everything Billy wanted in a wife. Fast, sexy, dominant, with a wild side. He knew Musty would never cheat on him, and that she'd do everything she could to please Billy. The girls at school were only ever interested in themselves. They talked to Billy, he just wished they would shut up. They talked about such stupid things, Billy couldn't believe it. Sometimes he imagined if the world were run by girls or populated only by girls, it would fall apart like some big joke. And he was probably right. Billy
think
often
about
heard
Why the Last
heard his
Man.
Billy often heard his Harvard-educated left-wing Jewish sing and dance about how if women were in charge, there wouldn't be any violence and there would be a utopia on Earth, peace forever. Because women aren't total vengeful bitches. What Billy didn't point out for fear of getting failing grades across the board instead of just in math. Because those left wing types are cutthroat intellectual bullies, no matter how far and equanimous they try so hard desperately to appear. What he didn't want to point out was that women are in charge. Janet Reno, Janet Yellen, Janet Napolitano, Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, Kathleen Sebelius, Nancy Pelosi. As much as Billy wanted to pin the downfall of Western civilization on that crackpot Marxist Obama, he he had to at least concede that Obama didn't do it on his own. Obama had help from women who, without fail, turned into absolute sociopaths when given positions of power. In his
Okay, so
book, The Shadow
I
of
have to read the chat real quick. I mute the stream to be on a phone call, and what the hell did I miss?
Everything, everything. You missed
To
the whole
be
thing about cars.
Yeah, there was this whole sequence about the origin of a car that he didn't even wind up fucking taking.
There. In his
And
book,
now Billy has gone from being racist against Italians to going on about how women are communists and things like that. And I'm just gonna
let's just keep it going.
go
In his book,
with.
The Shadow of the Torturer, science fiction writer Gene Wolfe imagines an arcane world where the ruling parties maintain their station and enforce their weird rules through the use of torture. Main character narrator Siberian is a member of the Torturers Guild, and in the beginning of the book, he spent some time reviewing the long and hallowed history of said guild. Women are no longer allowed to be torturers, but they once were until an edict from the Autarch banned them from practice. The reason? Female torturers were found to often go above and beyond the prescribed amount of torture, tormenting their victims more severely than the sentences called for, and sometimes accidentally killing them. Billy loved Gene Wolfe's books. He read through all when he was 5 years old, and it always struck him as remarkable how this great author illuminated such a subtle but important human truth using a
Okay, so
historical side note.
The Shadow of the
Yes,
Torturer is the first novel in Gene Wolfe's The Book of the New Sun series. This actually exists. Oh my god.
yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah,
Yes, real women were cruel and useless as mankind had
I'm
no
just gonna
practically
dedicate an
since
entire fucking
conception.
paragraph to talking about a real life book.
But, but Musty was hot and never bothered Billy. Musty revved hard, bouncing off the limiter, then dropping the clutch and peel out the garage onto the road. Chapter 8 Billy gets a big helping hand. All right, pass over to you, man. I know you're going insane from going through this.
Outside the circus, outside the circus, it was better than Billy could have imagined. People were milling about and playing sideshow games, buying candied cotton. What? And laughing and hollering. There were dunking stations, apple bobbing stations, face painting stations, balloon popping stations. Billy looked over and saw his best friend from school, Petter, flying high inside a bouncy castle. The smell and odor of fresh hot peanuts, that's the same fucking thing, crackled through the air like a high-voltage electric current were commingled with the unmistakable aroma of fresh dough. The ground was covered with trash, which is an old circus custom. Whenever you're done enjoying your fried dough or giant lollipop or whatever you're supposed to throw the wrapper on the ground. No, you're fucking not. Do not take that as legal advice.
It was great, though.
It wasn't. It's awful. Billy walked over to the dunking station where his friend Sarah was laughing atop the dunking platform. What was that whole fucking MGTOW bullshit earlier if you have female friends? She was surrounded by men who were all laughing and gawking ravenously. And she's 7? Some of them just relaxed and smoked strong pipes and cigars, but many of them were throwing rotten fruit, trying to hit the dunk trigger, but also sometimes trying to hit Sarah. She was laughing. She was covered in a fine patina of rotten tomato paste and had taken a few potatoes to the eye, causing it to swell up and turn blue, but so far none of the men had dunked her successfully. They sure did want to see her get wet, though. Too early morning fog I see, visions
He's
of
going
the things to be.
Your little friend up there takes pleasure and delight in teasing us men.
A strange man breathed in Billy's face. She sure does, Billy smiled and hoped the man would go away. His breath smelled strange and sweet. Billy couldn't recognize the smell, but something about it made Billy uncomfortable. The man did not go away. See how she writhes and wiggles on the platform? She is shaking because she doesn't want to get wet. Wait! Ha ha! Why? Billy reflexively pinched his nose. She's got that fire inside that makes women dance, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, man? I used to have a girl like that. She would wiggle and ride under my fingers like a bucket of worms. I was lucky. Now I have nothing, but I still like to watch. Hey, man, what's the matter? You don't like girls? I don't...
No, he's got a MGTOW, though.
What? Billy was looking for a way out, but all around him men were packed tight. I don't want to know how tight the men are packed. The area smelled like vinegar and cologne. He was overwhelmed with panic. Yeah, I imagine you don't like girls. You kind of look like a girl. Say, I think that you should be up there wriggling and writhing. You want to get wet, kid? Billy wasn't listening. He was wiggling and writhing, trying to find some way to escape the pulsing crowd. Hey, gents, I say, gents, we have a new contender here. This boy here wants to be dunked. Some men of the crowd turned their attention from the smooth body on the dunking platform. Oh, God. Oh, dear. Over to Billy. In the distance, a low chant started, murmuring at first, then growing until nothing else could be heard. Wiggle, wiggle, writhe. Wiggle, wiggle, writhe. Wiggle, wiggle, writhe. Wiggle, wiggle, writhe. The men with the cigars puffed faster and faster, kissing and tonguing their cigars compulsively. What the fuck? Strange hands reached out from the crowd, manipulating Billy into contorted position, shoving him closer to the dunk tank. Sarah was hurried off and covered with a robe, and now the men were palming pieces of rotten fruit in eager anticipation of a new target. Billy could hardly breathe, but somewhere in the fracas he managed to think one coherent thought, that today was going to be a bad circus day.
I thought this was going to be an awesome circus day. No, it's going to be bad.
It's going to be the best day of my life. My life. The crowd was jamming with it, African-Caribbean groove. The men were swaying with the island rhythm and jumping to the beat of a Congo drum. Billy was put in a tight, revealing tribal garment and painted with red target rings. A man in the front, with a face covered in soot, wearing tattered rags, gnashed his teeth at Billy and tugged at the loose fabric of his own pants. Why? Billy was crying and hyperventilating. The men carrying him all treated him roughly. However, one man in particular was rougher than the rest. His name might have been John Feckin' Romero from id Software.
No,
Why
just
is John
some guy named.
Romero from id Software? Is this taking place in feckin' Texas, mate?
I don't know.
And this Billy thought, because Romero was looking Billy in the eyes, saying the name over and over again, was spraying tobacco juice. John Romero, John Romero. Romero said as he dug he's a fucking Pokemon now. He dug his dirty nails into Billy's tender skin. Romero's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Such was his joy at watching Billy squirm. Wiggle, wiggle, writhe, the crowd chanted. Romero twisted and poked and prodded, each time harder than the last. Billy squirmed and jumped, and Romero laughed, pressing his fingers deep under Billy's ribs, trying to touch the insides. Then another man with black lipstick and white paint on his face, like the Crow, reached over and gave Billy an Indian sunboy, and the lad would not soon forget. Waves of searing hot pain emanated from his wrist and racked his body, causing him to jump backwards as if he were a stuntman on wires. But Billy was no stuntman. There were no pillows waiting to break his fall, and the unimaginable pain, I can imagine the pain of a fucking Indian burn, it's not that bad, caused his face to contort was real. From above, a nightstick came down and gave Billy a good knock, but he was too distracted from the Indian burn to care. Ow. He wished he could cut his arm off. He looked down at his wrist in a red haze of agony. He saw shimmering glimmer. He's gonna go on about the fucking... What?
It was blurry at first.
I turned away, and then I saw something ahead of there. And I'm just gonna let you read this, because this is insane.
It was blurry at first. Then it took shape. You could barely make it out, but there it was. Omega. Of course, thank God. By some divine
This
providence.
isn't the Omegaverse.
Billy had chosen today to wear his custom Omega Speedmaster watch, the one with OnStar built in. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah,
though.
that was the thing that I fucking saw.
He quickly pressed some buttons and put his thumb on the glass, which was also a fingerprint scanner. It beeped and buzzed, then a rainbow pinwheel animation was displayed, indicating that the watch was processing information. He just prayed that Musty was out there listening. Before the watch could respond, the man with white face paint reached back over an Indian sunburned Billy so hard that the watch flew off like a soda bottle cap.
That's not
This
how
one
that
wasn't
works,
so-
but whatever.
This one wasn't so painful for Billy because he immediately lost consciousness, flying backwards faster than someone who touched an electric fence at a dinosaur park. Romero was familiar with fine watches, and while he'd never seen an Omega with OnStar on it, he figured Billy had been up to no good. Running over to the watch, he looked down to see the rainbow pinwheel was still spinning. Perfect. John Romero laughed to himself. Then he gave the watch a good He stomped it once, twice, then a dozen times and more to make sure it was broken, and it couldn't carry out whatever command Billy had issued. The Omega tipped on. Frustrated, John Romero picked it up again, pulled out a pearl-handled Kimber 1911 from his bobbly bead backpack. He threw the watch up in the air, waved his pistol several times as a master swordsman waves his rapier, and fired a military double tap at the airborne timepiece.
Okay,
But there was
so why is this turning into an ad for this fucking watch?
Oh yeah, by the way, this is also a real watch.
Does it actually have OnStar?
I got no fucking clue, but
Okay, so I actually am gonna look that up.
It's not as pricey as the other watch they mentioned. Let me go ahead and continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
But there was something that laughing John Romero didn't know. Destroying an Omega wristwatch is literally impossible. The Speedmaster spun like a Beyblade and hit the ground when it continued to spin, where it continued to spin for a minute,
Four
stirred up a
grand.
mini dust and trash tornado, where it finally came to a stop. The exterior was glowing red, hotter than the metal skin on an SR-71 Blackbird after breaking a sound
The
barrier.
SR-71 Blackbird, capable of reaching heights of over 3,000 feet.
The rainbow pinwheel popped off, and in its place a message appeared. Command received. The men were now heavily heaving Billy's limp body in the air and chanting louder than ever. Some foamed at the mouth. Some sucked their pipes and cigars so hard that the teeth hurt. But all wanted to see the lad get wet. Off in the distance, a 15,000 horsepower train engine roared. It is guaranteed that none of these savages have ever in their lives seen a Stage 3 Roche racing Mustang. Like vicious wolves, they had some evolutionary respect and fear of loud noises, caused them now to be on notice. John Romero felt a lump in his throat that slowly sank down to his stomach. Furious sound grew closer. The men stopped heaving Billy into the air, and the lads started to regain consciousness. Some of the cigar and pipe smokers were slack-jawed, dropped their pipes and cigars to the ground. Some puffed on their pipes and cigars even faster than before. Then Musty was upon them. The deafening thunder of the 98mm turbocharged Rouge Performance V8 drowned out the screams of the depraved men. Musty pulled hard to the right, then to the left, using a Scandinavian flick to initiate a drift. Musty had been programmed to imitate the greatest racing driver of all time, the Drift King Tanner Faust, but since her initial programming, the sentient AI had learned a thing or two of her own. And this drift now being displayed was something that even the Drift King couldn't pull off on its best days. Musty came into the corner with over a 90-degree entry angle, well past the point of no return for an ordinary car. But thanks to special carbon fiber tire rods and A-arms, she was able to drift at angles up to 270 degrees without spinning out. In a huge cloud of dirt and trash, Musty drifted through the crowd, hitting men with her fenders and sending them flying, and using her exhaust as a flamethrower. Left and right, men were running for the hills, many of them taking hard pulls from their cigars and pipes, and some others tugging at the loose fabric of their pants. John Romero took one last puff from two cigars and a pipe at the same time before Musty's right rear 22-inch Astani wheel swept his legs out from under him and sent him soaring through the air, doing so many misty flips that no X-Games judge could ever possibly have kept count. Billy sat up bewildered. Musty opened a Lamborghini-style scissor door and activated the milk crate soothing Hitachi magic wand.
What? That wasn't in this car!
She played some of Billy's favorite rock music. Come on, kid. We got a ride circus to catch. Alright. And now, after 8 chapters, we finally get to it. Chapter 9. Billy goes to the big top.
Inside the big tent, Billy breathed a sigh of relief. Despite the horrible nature of what he had just endured, and how much worse it could have been had the men had their way, he was just lucky to be inside, happy to finally be inside the circus. Where were you this whole fucking time? Were you just outside the circus? Always, he was a good kid like that, always focusing on the positive things, except for that massive depressive spell he had for about 5 hours earlier. Oh my god. Able to find the silver lining of any cloud, he whispered into his watch, "Hey, Musty, thanks for everything. Thanks again, babe. You really saved the day." The watch doesn't have a communication to her. It didn't. Musty said nothing, but instead revved happily and honked her horn, and Billy signed out of the chat, turning to watch the circus. And what a circus it was. It was everything Billy had imagined it to be. No, in fact, it was better. There were ribbon dancers, fire breathers, and elephants galore being whipped left and right, like that's a good thing. There were break dancers whose elegant black bodies were moving to the flow of African Caribbean rhythms. Okay. And men with whips whipping the dancers to keep them dancing Okay. The air was fragrant with hot, fresh peanuts and freshly cooked hot dog covered in ketchup, mustard, relish, and all the fixins. Really smiled the warmth of true contentment. He had never been happier in his life. Even those pesky clowns didn't seem so bad today. They were going around in their tiny cars, honking their noses, spraying fresh seltzer water at each other, but Billy just couldn't be bothered by them, even after he almost got somethinged by the crowd. Dunked, I'm gonna say. Everything was perfect in the clowns. Heck, he didn't even mind them. Yes, we know that. The announcer took center stage in the middle ring. He's called the ringleader. He was a kind-looking man, finally dressed in a long-tailed coat like an orchestra conductor. In one hand holding a metal-tipped with, and in the other an old-timey acoustic megaphone. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grand Circus.
There was a loud applause.
We have an amazing show for you today, a curious cavalcade of characters, a magnificent medley of mayhem, a preposterous presentation of parlor tricks.
Most of the audience members were bouncing up and down in their seats, unable to contain their excitement.
And it has become known to me today that we have a very special boy in our presence. Yes, ladies and lads. We have a young boy here today who's wanted to come to the circus more than anything in his entire life.
A steampunk orchestra marched out with big drums and tubas. Tony, when did you say this was written?
2014.
Sounds about right. And whistles and gear goggles and rifles with golden scopes. Why are there rifles? Steampunk rifles with tubes going to air pressure tanks on the back, and there were flying whirligig copters and all sorts of steampunk gentlemen in pith helmets and top hats and Victorian dress ascots to be seen everywhere. And there was his royal ship, Prince Peterson, with a monocle and a magic. He's using magic with one hand and casting spells with it. And then on the other, he had a steampunk gun, a Gatling pistol. He was shooting all sorts of zombies. Okay.
Victorian English zombies.
He had on pointy wingtip shoes and their jet boots. The jet Victorian steam jet boots. Okay. Billy was startled by the announcer's announcement, which is funny because he is. From out of nowhere, two giant spotlights swung over and beamed on him. He instantly turned completely red like a lobster.
Please, ladies and lads, a big round of applause, big round of applause, big round of applause for Billy!
The crowd roared, confetti and streamers rained down, and clowns sprayed geysers of seltzer into the air. It was an extravagant sight one would expect to see in Las Vegas, not some small-town circus. Billy was overjoyed. I thought he was embarrassed. He laughed and clapped and tugged at the stockings of his mother. I didn't think he was with his mother. You know, you could have avoided all that crap if you just come there with your mother. I'm going to move on swiftly from that. I don't want Billy to come with his mother. His mother's sitting next to him, eating fresh, hot peanuts one by one. Why is he tugging on her socks and his loose fabric of his pants? Why does everybody have loose pant fabric that they tug on? Then the audience died down for the announcer to get on with the show. With a flourish of the wrist, he produced from thin air a magic wand. He cleared his throat and took a moment to appreciate the delicious silence of a rapt audience. I thought it said rapt applause. While he had done this trick 1,000 times, it never got old. It was pure theater, and he was a master player. With a grandiose wave and a ballerina spin, the announcer pointed his wand at the elephant and fired a magic bolt. With a zip-zap crash, the bolt sparkled through the air and struck the elephant squarely on the trunk. There was an explosion of pink fire, blue sparks, yellow smoke. The elephant immediately dropped dead to the floor. Why? Why?
The crowd roared. The applause was so loud it was deafening.
Billy jumped and hooted for some reason. The man next to him stomped his feet and slapped his thighs. A lady, too, rose down, threw peanuts into the air, and others tried to catch the falling peanuts in their mouths. What does Sam Hyde think goes on at the circus?
Yes, this is like an old school circus.
Okay. Ahem. I do say ahem.
Please, ladies and lads, calm down, there's more.
The elephant rumbled a bit and then started to smoke.
The announcer swung his wand, and a windmill wind up like an old-time cartoon boxer preparing to swing. He said some magic words, did a front flip, and clacked his heels together and fired another bolt. This time, back at the audience, it crackled through the air and struck one man bridge in the nose. In the bridge of the nose. Then it zoomed all the way across the tent, struck another man square in the temple. Then the magic bolt of energy broke off into 2 bolts, both careening around the tent, striking people indiscriminately. The twin bolts scorched the air on their path around the 3 rings. Is Billy going to wind up in his mom's body?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say, is like this seems like the kind of thing that would be switching minds around. Finally came back together and trying to like 2 snakes in passion. Why? Crashing into the dead elephant. There was an explosion, enormous eruption of confetti and streamers and multicolored smoke filled the room until it was nearly impossible to see anything. Suddenly the air became very cold. My skin is cold. Transfusion with somebody. Suddenly the air became very cold and then very hot, and all 200 audience members felt the sensation of 24 child fingers tickling and poking at their backsides. Each of them. This sure was some trick. Yeah, I'll fucking bet it is. Finally, the smoke cleared, the elephant was gone, and in its place stood an incredible sight. Dressed up in lacy black lingerie, complete with stockings and garter belt, and made up with lipstick and face paint, as if to appear beautiful, it was the world-famous Fat Woman. Not a single fanny in the house remained sitting. All at once, the audience rose to their feet and clapped wildly. Such was the glee at seeing this perverse oddity. Okay. The man behind Billy choked on a cigar and exhaled a puff of smoke so big that it completely enveloped Billy. And then they decided to consult the grimoire named for the Reality's magic of the teenage witch mage nature walk by fingering Muffin in order to summon Cthulhu. Yeah, you know what? I could expect anything at this point, Kevin, and this is what would happen. Like,
Billy clapped.
Yeah. Billy clapped and clapped, turning the air around him such that the smoke became a mini tornado and spun away.
Damn, that's
the
a lot
fat
of
woman
clapping.
was glorious. No one had seen such a sight before. She must have been close to 300 pounds, and her girth was such that her lingerie had to be specifically made by a master craftsman. The circus folk had taken up great pains to doll her up, making her as beautiful as such a hideous creature could be. Now Billy hates fat people, too. All the townspeople found this profoundly amusing. Here before them was a monstrous woman, dressed in sexy lingerie with an elaborate hairdo and makeup, as if she were a beauty pageant queen. She's a killer queen. Everybody laughed. An old-timey microphone descended from the rafters, and the incredible fat woman launched into some sort of stand-up comedy routine. Fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round.
Look at me! I'm just as sexy and elegant as a normal woman-sized woman.
Oh no, it's Amy Schumer.
She said with a knowing smirk, to uproarious laughter. I think I'll model my new lingerie and take some pictures of myself because so many men would love to see me in suggestive poses. Again, there were hearty laughs to be made throughout. Because the fat woman posed and made kissy faces, and a gorgeous, slender young woman dressed identically brought out for comparison. The fat woman made ugly faces at the slender one, feigning disgust, as though her slender young body were less appealing than her own heaving mass. Then a series of shirtless, muscle-bound men came around, running out. They fawned over and knelt before the incredible fat woman, pretending to be somehow attracted to the unlovable beast, and they utterly ignored the thin woman, who to any sane person's eyes appeared to be a goddess in comparison with it. Finally, as funny as her pantomime had been, everyone grew tired of seeing the fat woman. In fact, many of the audience had eyes aching and were rubbing their eyes frantically. She was ushered away to her feeding trough, and the stage was cleared for the announcer again. Chapter 10. The Clown.
Send in the clowns. That's a
Time had
reference
come.
to a Fate Zero parody known as Fate Zero, specifically the episode where many fans of the show get acquainted with one of the methods of restoring mana.
Send the clowns?
Mm.
Oh no. The time had come for the final act. Strobe lights fired left and right, in many cases inches away from the audience faces, blinding them. In the center ring, the announcer was showboating around doing a chicken dance, sprinting back and forth on his tiptoes, waving his hands like the maitre d' of a fancy restaurant, pretending like he was in prison break into spotlight. He was in a prison break, and the spotlight was a guard tower light. The audience applauded enthusiastically as he soaked it up, alternately making sarcastic "Who, me?" faces and pretending like the audience applaud was like machine gun fire. He was being riddled with bullets. He then whipped off his coat, bow tie, cummerbund, and shirt in one motion, revealing another set underneath. Then he bent over the elephant's drinking trough, took many gulps of the dirty brown water. As he had his fill, he turned to the crowd and made a few face and hand signaled as if he would say, "Oh yeah."
Oh,
After
yeah.
several minutes of just showing off, grandstanding, the lights came to a rest. As he motioned for the crowd to settle down, Billy was so excited he nearly bit both lips off. The cigar man behind him was making frantic noises, and he mule kicked Billy several times in the back of the head. Such was his.
Hang on. I have to bring something up here. So a mule kick is done backwards, right? Mule kick to the back of the head.
I think there's a donkey kick, or is that the same thing, basically?
It's the same thing. Donkey kick. There's a donkey punch. The donkey punch is awful. If you get donkey punched, you will hurt afterwards. But no, the donkey kick, mule kick.
It's like a side kick from the looks of it.
You have to be backwards, and you have to be like to the back of the head. Billy's fucking dead. He's 7. Grown man just kicked him in the head twice.
Hey, he'll get fine. The announcer took out a starter pistol in the back of the head. It fired into the air, demanding the complete attention of everyone. The whole tent felt silent. Ladies and lads, our show is nearly over, and it's about time to go home. But we wanted to make sure you get all your money's worth, and you get to go home with smiling faces.
This is like the
Had to
most
be perfectly
irritating. This is like the shortest fucking circus I've ever heard of.
But we wanted to make sure you get all your money's worth, and you get to. And to be perfectly honest, we wanted to make sure that you've seen the best goddamn seconds that you've ever seen in your big old little life. The announcer smirked fiercely. He paused. And then he paused for an unnecessary amount of time, relishing in the fact that he just made the entire tent full of people his bitch. That's right. Suck it, little bitches. He thought to himself and said aloud inadvertently, "That's why we saved the best for last. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the clown." With a puff of smoke, the announcer was lifted off on wires, flying to some unknown place behind the stands. Strobe lights fired again, even brighter than before, and so much confetti rained down that one could barely see 5 feet in front of himself. Air raid sirens blared, deafening anyone who didn't cover their ears, and Hitachi magic wands were activated in all the seats. Giant 8 air conditioners all throughout the tent were turned on simultaneously, as well as space heaters. The heat was searing, and the cold was bone-chilling.
Bone-chilling.
In the center ring, an iris opened, and from it rose a metal platform on which stood the clown. He was dressed in full clown regalia with giant red shoes, baggy harlequin pants with a big target emblazoned on the crotch, fine striped vest, and a shirt with big blousy sleeves, epaulets, and a multicolored pinwheel hat. Oh, and of course, a giant red nose. He was standing with his arms crossed and his legs wide, waiting for the platform to come to a stop. And so it did. Confetti stopped pouring. Air conditioners and heaters and strobe lights shut off. The whole tent was held in icy silence, utterly captivated. The clown music blared. The clown sprung into action, wielding seltzer bottles in his hands as he charged at the crowd. When he reached the front row, he stopped and sprayed both bottles high into the air, showering everyone with a cool, refreshing mist. The music changed to a more upbeat, synthesized clown music, and the clown wiggled his hips. People could just not believe what they were seeing. He did backhand springs, at about 50 of them total, until he was at the opposite end of the tent. The audience screamed as they jived with this cool clown. He took out a cigar, a big one, put it in a lucky man's mouth, and gave it a light. Moments later, the cigar exploded, and the clown cartwheeled his way back to the middle of the ring. The fat and thin woman from earlier quickly wheeled out a big trampoline. The clown gave them both silly kisses and sent them on their way with seltzer spray from the seltzer bottle. He then mounted the trampoline and gave a big bow before starting to jump. The crowd hooted as he jumped higher and higher. Each time they thought he had gone the highest he could go. The clown proved them wrong by going higher. Billy started to feel dizzy from following the clown with his eyes as he soared up and down, flipping and twirling the whole way. The clown then jumped so high that he actually reached the rafters above, which he grabbed a hold of and pulled himself up. Like a cat or some sort of night burglar, the clown pranced dangerously above the rafters, tossing water balloons down onto the crowd. The water balloons were actually filled with shaving cream, and they coated everyone with a frothy white foam upon bursting. Of course, everyone was delighted with this and begged and called out to the clown, hoping to be the next target. Down came a balloon right onto Billy's big head. His hair must have been very soft because this one didn't burst on landing. And so to help things move things along, the cigar man behind gave him a swift kick. The kick missed the balloon, only striking Billy on the crown, and the balloon went tumbling over down 2 rows, and tucking itself neatly down the shirt front of a woman in an elegant white gown. The man next to her, no problem, gingerly removed it, which he then hurled back to the center ring. It landed with a loud slap. The clown swung down on wires like an eagle, snatching up one audience member's hot dog, and flew back up. He came down for a second time, took a healthy sip of someone's soda cup, and again shot back into the air. Those in the crowd who'd seen the clown before knew this was a prelude to the best part of the show, relished it accordingly. Those who were newcomers had no idea what the ominous feeling in the air was undeniable, and many chose to sit on their hands for fear of biting their nails too quick. On a rafter, Clown took a grandiose bow and proceeded to tap dance a little, which of course everyone thought was very clever. A flap opened on the side of the tent, and a gang of shirtless, well-oiled, well-muscled men wheeled in an ornate pie cart stacked at the very top of fresh
I don't
cream
want to know
pie.
about the oily muscle men and the cream pies. Sam.
The clown was hoisted down to the center ring very slowly, so as to heighten the excitement and pleasure. Either side of the giant tent, big fat women struck at even bigger taiko drums and danced so that their bellies jiggled with the rhythm, left and right. People had to smack themselves out of disbelief. This was truly a show like none other in the world. The clown picked up 2 pies, one in each hand. He skipped and he leaped, and the ropes hoisted him away with a vicious jerk. He flew toward the stands with amazing speed and decked 2 unsuspecting people clean in the face with the pie. The victims had a good sense not to cover their faces. To cover one's faces before a pie attack was a sign of grave disrespect, not only toward the clown, but also toward the whole circus. And any sort of face covering or flinching would the whole circus being shut down and everyone's night being ruined. It was important to take the pie head on and be brave. Billy's father told him of a tale once when he was young enough to love. Where he when he was when he's okay, there's the double type right there. Okay, when he was young enough to love the circus and the brave general himself, although didn't talk about it much, was also an avid circus goer. And once upon a time, he had indeed been pied in the face by the illustrious clown. Of course, being a general in the army, Billy's father was more than ready for the pie and faced it without cowardice. But in that story, there laid a warning for young Billy, because after the general had taken his pie, the clown went on to the next victim, pie in hand. This time around, the pie was destined for a coal miner with charred skin and frayed boots, a man who looked rougher and tougher than most.
Rougher than the
However,
rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather. You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle, except when I do.
However, when it came time to take his pie, he flinched, jerking out his seat and avoiding the pie at the last minute. Well, Billy's father had always said the rest of the story was too tragic to tell. Rest assured, everyone's circus day was ruined, and that old coal miner was laughed out of town. Billy thought now of the old coal miner and what could possibly have happened to him. To think of it, committing such a mistake in such a public arena, chilled him to the core. The thought was so hypnotizing that Billy didn't notice the clown at him, flying at him. Presently, pie-armed cock.
Okay, well, I guess I'm taking over. By the way, whoa, halfway there. Oh, living on a prayer. Take my hand, make it, I swear. Oh, living on a prayer.
Yeah. This is we're coming up to that stretch of a few short chapters, of very short chapters actually. So we probably I think we can keep on blowing through this all. I got time to just keep blowing through the rest of this.
I was gonna say it's 9:20. We're halfway through. Do you want to just call it? Because I need to go grab something to eat, and we can come back on like a Friday or something and finish this.
Yeah, sure. Let's finish up this last chapter. Leave everyone on the.
All right, so we're gonna finish up chapter 11. We're officially bankrupt, and then we're gonna leave that. Chapter 11: The Last Days of Big Billy. The next few moments would seal Billy's fate forever. Excuse me. This he knew immediately upon seeing the clown with his evil grin. The lad dug his heels into the dusty, trash-covered floor and clenched his fingers tight around the rim of his seat. Would he be a good boy and not flinch? Would he mess things up like everything else in his life? Sure, he wasn't built to excel at maths or become some sort of great opera conductor, but the circus was everything to him. The circus was life, and he had studied for this moment since he was old enough to listen to the general and his wise tales. He closed his eyes and braced for the gooey impact, thinking of his mother, and of Musty, and of all the school children who looked up to him and wanted to see him succeed. But the gooey impact didn't come. He opened his eye a crack. There was the pie, mere inches from his face. He could see the detail, the soft mounds of whipped cream, the ridges of the yummy pie crust, the shiny foil of the pan, the hard rock in the middle, surrounded by razor blades and nails. That was fucking normal until that. It was all there. And yet why wasn't it in his face? He looked around and the whole arena was looking dead at him. There was the clown, equally shocked, and as Billy looked more, the face of the clown turned from shock to disgust, then anger. He must have flinched. He didn't take his pie, one man sputtered from cigar-clenched teeth. Billy's stomach dropped. Some men are lucky enough to die quickly, without ever knowing the meaning of real death. Billy now experienced the opposite. Death was upon him and all around him, but without the relief that actual death affords its victims. The color drained from his skin, and he couldn't feel his hands. The sickest part is, somewhere deep down he knew he deserved this. He didn't remember flinching, but of course he did flinch. Of course he had screwed this up like everything else. The big ugly head of his must have been full of chicken nuggets because it sure wasn't full of any brains. Oh, how Billy wished he could just dash his head against the rock in that pie. He wished someone would come and kick him in the head with steel-toed boots. If only fate would be merciful enough to send some good Samaritan to put him to sleep. Mess him up! An old lady yelled. He didn't take his pie! Got him in tow! Another voice cried. Voices continued to ring out until the whole place was calling for Billy's blood. Fucking diabolical, isn't it? Billy punched coordinates into his Omega watch, but the tent must have had some sort of communication jamming technology because the watch just flipped and booped and went dead. He could barely stand up straight. He was breathing too fast. The cigar man behind him reached over and stripped all of his clothes off in one motion. The fucking tropical tribal clothes that they put him in earlier, or did he get his regular clothes back?
Everything. I would assume that's like tropical clothes is on top of what he had.
I thought they stripped him of the other stuff. I don't fucking know.
No.
It's entirely possible that they just put him in more clothes on top of his regular clothes, and then this guy took all of those clothes. The crowd cheered cruelly. The clown was laughing his head off. What could possibly be so funny in such a grave situation? The people in the crowd jeered and threw rotten vegetables, aiming for Billy's eyes and then his crotch. The man behind him mule kicked at Billy's head and neck as if he was trying to start a troublesome dirt bike. All around, people spewed hate, and yet all the clown could do was laugh and laugh. Why does the world hate this kid so much? Why does the guy behind him hate this kid so much? Actually, wait a second. No, we've established that Billy doesn't shower, and so I'd probably want to kick him too.
Dirty salad crotch.
Billy's field of vision closed down, and his ears went deaf to the crowd's noise. In the middle of the soupy blackness, there was a pinprick of light, in the center of which stood the clown. The clown grew larger and larger still, until snarled old clown teeth were all that Billy could see and smell, and the hot clown-sticking breath was all that Billy could hear. Hot clown breath stinking was all Billy could hear. What? You could... breath so bad you could hear it. Okay. The clown reached in close and gave a hateful hiss.
He whispered to Billy.
You didn't flinch, Billy. You didn't flinch, Billy. I just don't like you. Fuck you.
Fuck. No, just fuck you.
Fuck you. Since the clown had rushed at him, tricked him, and taken from him everything that mattered, it had only been 60 seconds, but it felt like 6 hours. Yeah, I know what it feels like, Sam. Billy was now living through a slow-motion nightmare custom-tailored only for him, and nobody, not his mother, not Marcion, his best friend, Pitter, nor Mr. Myth-Tetcher could help. Myth-Tetcher has changed genders twice now.
No, there's Mr. Myth-Tetcher and then Miss Tetcher. They're completely different people.
Okay. Spider-Man, first time. Toei Animation notices a card that reads, use a good release for your shows with the original Japanese audio or pick up 25 cards. They pick up 25. Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah.
And here, my dear viewers, here is where we would end our tale. The hapless hero, given every gift in the world from God, and in the end, like all the tragedies of ancient Greece, his hubris, his sense of invincibility proved his undoing. Yes, this is where we would end this if this was a mere story. But this is not a story. This is reality. And in reality, tragedy doesn't end so quickly and painlessly. No. In reality, the characters are given a lifetime to chew themselves to pieces, to torture themselves with the memory of their folly. I sold my car and took out a large loan with 20% APR using my own beloved mother as a co-signer, all to purchase bitcoins near their 2013 peak of $1,200, only to lose my nerve after the Chinese crash and sell everything at $500. It's a real story. I also got STDs from cheating on my girlfriend and gave them to her. But this story is about Billy and the consequences of his actions. God fucking damn it, Sam. I didn't need to know that. Please tell me that's not true, Sammy.
Pretty sure it's part of the bit, but you never know with it.
Yeah.
And so, viewers, this is where we're going to leave you guys off. We're only halfway. This is the actual halfway point of the story. So, if you're wondering what will happen to Big Billy now that he messed up not getting a pie to the face, will he get his revenge on that dirty clown? tune in next time whenever we get
In
back to
his
this.
dwell pod. We're already into more nutso territory. I love it. This is gonna
We're
be
gonna say
beautiful. TMI,
this
dude.
is
TMI.
this is
Yes, Kevin. Yeah.
this is gonna be the fun part coming up though. But
Are we going into more science fiction territory?
well, it's gonna be interesting to say the least. But let's at least save it for next time so that we don't
Alrighty then.
spoil it.
Bye, everybody.
Yep, this is where it ends. And we bid you adieu.
I bid you adieu.